Here we go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another youth Bible study. I'm Jeremy. I'm joined here by Kalanji and Cyrus on my right side. Good to see you guys. I'm also joined by a guy named Malik in the back. You don't see him, but it's always good to have you here as well. And we'd like to welcome you guys from whatever social media you guys are coming from, whether it be Facebook, whether it be YouTube, whether it be the Hope website, Instagram, whatever social media. We want to say welcome. I know it's been a while, but we're back and we're glad to see you. Now, before we get into the lesson, Kalandi, do you want to have a quick prayer for us? Thanks.
Thank you, God, for this day. Thank you for waking us up this morning and giving us life to walk forward in these scripture. Please bless all of our families, our family, friends as we go on today. Give us our guidance and protection. And just give us your angry words that we can protect you and forgive us of our sins and our trespasses. And please bless us to be like other people in Christ.
Amen. All right. So the lesson for this week is taken from the book of Philippians 4, verse 8. And the title is Bored at Church. Okay? Bored at church. So I got to ask you, have you guys ever been bored at church?
Yeah.
Maybe during the pastor's preaching or something? Sort of? All right. Do you want to share?
Yes.
Go for it.
So what happened was I think it was like 2 weeks ago or later, there was a sermon going on. Of course, the sermon, I fall asleep because I don't have any energy going the rest of the day. And then I wake up the second that the sermon is over.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's...
So the pastor's preaching a sermon, you're tired, you go to sleep, and you wake up as soon as it's over. That's poor timing. That is pretty poor timing, but it happens, right? Cyrus, how about you?
There was a time where kind of similar to his. I was working really hard that week before Sabbath, and I just happened to doze off during the rest of the week.
Okay, yeah. I gotta admit, it happened to me when I was young too. Malik, what about you?
I still remember falling asleep like during when our pastor was teaching. I woke up last night and landed like the whole time.
Okay. So kind of a similar story to Columbia. You fell asleep during a sermon and woke up when it ended. Interesting. So that brings to mind this question. All right. Why do we find church boring at times? Why do we fall asleep? Okay. Come on, do you got any ideas?
I think it's because makes us engage.
Okay, maybe the sermon is not too engaging. Cyrus, what about you?
I guess just me overworking the week.
You overworking during the week. Okay. Malik, what about you?
Probably like people's mostly focused on like electronics and stuff that if somebody's teaching or if they're doing a sermon, then like they're probably gonna be bored of it because people probably mostly entertained by like usually action drama or probably like you just go around.
All right. No, that's a fair point. So the sermon isn't that stimulating. People are usually entertained by games, video games, technological devices, movies, and hearing a sermon may not be the most entertaining, right? But here's the question: why don't we find it entertaining, or why don't we find it as stimulating? Okay. So it depends on the story.
Yeah, pretty much what you said. It's like it's like the same story over and over.
Mhm.
And it's probably gonna be like boring to the person because like the person don't have to think about the story. And like you're just teaching it again and again.
Right. No, that's a fair point. Cyrus, what about you?
Mm, Well, not really sure. It all depends.
Yeah, you're right. It does depend on a lot of things. It depends on the story. It also depends on the storyteller as well.
Yeah, actually.
I mean, there was one guy, I forget his name. He's a Hollywood actor. He is known for having the most boring voice ever. In fact, they hired him simply because he is the most boring. He's the type of person who, if you were to hear him talk, you would get bored in like a split second. He's got that monotone, kind of deep voice, like, okay, all right. So fry. What we're gonna talk about today, it's just boring, man.
I think I remember watching a movie about some guy that be like, what those are Burger King,
Yeah,
what you want to order.
yeah.
uh,
It's just the most. I kind of feel bad for that guy. In all honesty, it's his voice. You know, he didn't have to be born that way. He just was. Now, but that being said, you're right. It can be boring. Now, I want to ask you, what do you guys find stimulating or engaging?
What we do is
Hobbies, such as
sports, and do something that's
all right, something proactive, sports, games, etc. Malik, what are you engaging, or what is engaging to you, or stimulating?
What's stimulating for me is mostly games,
Mhm.
books, dinners, playing sports, and like probably like doing business.
Doing business. Wait, did you say the news as well?
Yeah.
You find the news stimulating?
Yeah. It's
Wow.
very entertaining because it's basically talking to you about different stuff that's happening all around the world,
All right.
and like people should really know about it because if they don't, like they ask people, like it's gonna be like, oh, so how do you not know about it? Do you
Yeah.
ever watch news or something? And if you say no, they're gonna be like, wow, you gotta catch up on time.
Yeah.
So mostly, like, yeah, that's why they watch. That's why I watch news.
No, you're absolutely right. You're the first young guy I know to watch the news and find it stimulating. Hey, good to see you. Come on in. All right. But yeah, that's a good point. Cyrus, what do you find stimulating?
I guess something interactive, something to do. I guess.
All right, something interactive, you mentioned building stuff earlier.
Yes.
So if I brought Legos and asked you guys to build, let's say, the sanctuary or something, you would be all in for that. That would be
I
something.
guess I would. Yeah.
All right. Or maybe build a 3D model of Jerusalem. That would probably.
That'd be cool.
Okay. I guess I need to start investing in Legos. All right. So, what are things you like to do that you find stimulating or interesting?
Designing
Designing?
clothes.
Okay. So designing clothes, like different styles and whatnot.
I like pictures too, like the landscape and the portraits.
Oh, you like taking pictures as well. Now, do you like to take pictures of people or areas?
Mostly people, but I'm getting into areas like landscapes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Landscapes is actually pretty good. There is a place, I think, Haverhill, or Tower Hill. I forget where we took the young people, AY took a hike there, during the fall. It is beautiful, man. Great place for landscape photography. You know, we're probably gonna get back there considering the weather's starting to look better now. We're probably gonna take a trip there.
You know the St. Patrick's parade that was
Yeah,
in
yeah,
downtown.
yeah.
So I got paid photo student for the New York
Nice.
Times.
Wait, for the New York Times? Nice.
Well, it's not much. It's got
I mean, no, I mean, probably, yeah, it probably wasn't, but still, the New York, you got to work with the New York Times.
or just so once because I even
Yeah.
I've heard over there in the area.
Uh-huh.
They didn't know me.
Okay. No, that's good. That's quite the opportunity. You already got a foot in the door. So that's nice. So you like the photography, you like looking at pictures, and as well as design. All right. So if I were to bring out some papers and say, hey, start drawing what you think the fashion was like back in ancient Israel, maybe able to you can think of something. All right. Sounds good. So there's a lot of things that stimulate us. Video games, clothing, designing, building. Now, why doesn't the Bible? Yeah, the book. You know, some of you guys mentioned reading was fun, but when you think about reading the Bible, is that interesting?
Yeah.
Is it engaging?
Bad stories where,
Uh-huh.
fun.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that happen.
You
Very
learn a lot. Too.
yes, you can. Kalani, what about you?
Especially like, when you read the updated version of the Bible,
Right. Yeah, because it's easier to understand the words, right? Yeah, that's my one issue with King James. It's a good book, but all the ye's and thous and ye old English can really throw you off. In all honesty. All right. Now that being said, why do you? Oh, in fact, let me put it another. Let me answer this. Now, how many people do you think read in the country?
I'll say a lot.
What?
Percentage?
Like percentage?
64%.
64%? Okay, what do you think?
Maybe, 70,
72? Alonji, any guesses? Like percentage of the population that read? 50? Oh, wow.
maybe not who can read or like
Well, let's start with who can read and then who will go into that. All right. So, just to clarify, what percentage of the population do you think can actually read?
realize some areas that don't have.
All right. So, what percentage would you guess, bro?
Or that technology.
Yeah.
This is one study. So probably 60.
60%? Okay. Of the population you think can read. What do you think?
I was thinking 70, 70.
Around 70? What about you? 89. 89? Okay, you're closest without going over. It is actually 79%. 79% of the population can read. Now, what out of that 79, what percent do you think actually read?
I would say there's not many people really reading, but there's people out there who do enjoy it. Maybe like 50. I think.
All right, maybe 50. All right, what do you think? 30, 35? 35? You? Close. It's around 40% that enjoy reading, and the rest don't. In fact, the rest are reading at a sixth grade level.
Oh, wow.
Out of that 79%, about 56 are at a sixth grade level. Okay, in terms of reading. So, and that's here in the United States. Now, that's just with adults. Now, with kids, I actually looked it up. 56% of elementary kids read. 70% of middle schoolers. So good job with you guys. But high schoolers dropped down to 49. You're the low. They are the lowest. Now, understandably, because they got a lot to do, they got work, they got that, so they don't exactly have leisure time to. So I'll give you that. Now, that being said, on average, what do you guys like to read? Well, let me, in fact, better question. Do you guys like to read at all during your spare? You
Depends.
Depends. You do. Okay, you read the Bible and you read fictional books. Now, all right, let's compare the two. Compare the Bible to fictional books. Which do you think is more entertaining? Which would you say is more entertaining? Okay, fair enough. How about you guys?
Um, I would might say out to the Bible. I'm not gonna-
Huh?
Because well, there is different parts you can research some of it. You can there are a lot of things you can do when you read the Bible. You
Yeah.
can meditate on it, you can research it, you can talk about it.
Yeah,
And what you think of it.
you can create the Bible. All right. All right. What would you say comparing the Bible to fiction? Which do you think is more entertaining?
Well, there is a fiction Bible, it's like a graphic novel for the Bible.
Ah, okay.
It's graphic novels.
Okay. So that helps keep your attention. All right. No, that's a good idea. A comic version or a graphic novel version of the Bible. That's actually a brilliant idea. I have, believe it or not. You know. So yeah, that's whoever's idea was a very good idea. Hopefully it's accurate. I mean, I would hope it's accurate compared to various others. But here's the thing. Most people, when they think of reading the Bible, they think it's boring. You know, they'll say, I start at Genesis and I fall right to sleep by the third or fourth book
But also some
or
people,
verse. Yeah,
no,
go ahead.
but also some people think of it as a list of things you can't do.
Mm,
Because they don't know what you can do.
no, that's a fair point. So now, would you say the Bible is, you guys say the Bible is entertaining or is very interesting, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I came up with an activity, a game. I came up with various different movie genres, okay, that people like. Now, I want you guys to tell me any Bible stories that would fit into this genre. Are you ready? All right, here we go. Let's start with war movie. All right.
Another war was to, I think it was Phineas and some war on David.
David and Goliath. Okay, that was a war story, so that's a fair point. Any other that come to mind?
I haven't gotten too far on the Bible.
Okay. All right.
I don't know any more besides David and the wife.
All right. Malik, what about you? You know any war stories?
Or,
War. W-A-R.
or, mm,
From the Bible, that is.
open the Bible.
Like stories of battle, stories of war.
No,
No? What about you, man? No? All right. So David and Goliath is one. Judges is full of a few, but what about you have Joshua and at Jericho for the Battle of Ai? That's a pretty good war story. You have the story of Gideon as well. You ever heard of the movie 300? The same exact thing happened in the Bible. 300, not Spartans, 300 Jews went up against 80,000 trained killers. And they fought them with a torch, a clay jar, and a trumpet. No weapons. That is the Bible. That is actually in the Bible, in the book of Judges. The Spartans wasn't. That one's in history. The Spartans copied the Bible, sort of. The only difference was they had superior weapons. These guys, I mean, they were up against people with swords and spears with a trumpet.
Yeah.
How are you going to beat people with a trumpet?
On their heels.
Well, that's where the strategy comes in, and it's a beautiful strategy, beautiful story. All right. All right. What about action movies? Just action in general. The action genre. What's an action story? The Flood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Noah's Ark. That's pretty action packed, I would say so.
Moses.
Oh, that's a good one. The fugitive story of Moses. He commits murder and then he runs away from Egypt. All right. Yeah, that did happen. Okay, that's more of a mystery or kind of true crime movie, but still action.
Documentary.
Believe it or not, that actually is a genre. Documentaries right here. So we could get into Moses with documentaries and true crime.
That'd be good. That's
Yeah, I agree, and then documenting from murder to Moab, where he's a shepherd, from the shepherd to leading
Wait,
the
what
Jews
now?
again. We're at action.
Oh, actually.
So I guess David and Goliath would fall under that one too.
Mhm.
All right. Any others?
I don't really know.
Hmm.
I'm thinking like when Peter was sinking at that time. When he was
Oh,
sinking in the
yeah.
water, and Jesus showed him.
Okay, Jesus walking on the water and yeah, that is a yeah. That's we're gonna get into that one. That's a whole different genre. All right. So with action, we got that. We also have in the book of Samuel, we have various other fights and battles that David had, or the whole story of David is jam-packed with a lot of action.
I think
Alright.
also Samson.
Samson's a good one. All right. What about an underdog?
Where's the one who was eating like
Jonah?
children? David.
Okay, that's fair.
This one's hard.
A young
Joseph,
king.
Joseph.
The story of Joseph is an underdog. That underdog means a rags to riches story. And Joseph is a good example. Here was a man who was sold into slavery, who ended up being the prime minister of Egypt. From slavery to prison to the prime minister. That is the epitome of a rags to riches story. So that's a good example. Any others?
I think like a young king. I forgot the name.
Josiah
Yeah, I think so.
and Solomon. Yeah, Solomon is a
King of Persia.
king of Persia. Which one? Ah, yes. That's also. They actually said his biography in the Bible, King Cyrus, which is very surprising that God actually called him by name. Come on in. Good to see you. All right.
You're kind of looking for Sister Marian. This is where she is.
Sister Merlin is in the next room.
But she's here as well.
I'm not
I
sure.
haven't seen her. All right, young ladies, you can just sit here. As soon as she comes, I'll let her know.
All right. What are you guys' names?
Junaidi.
Just Mary and you lady?
Junaidi.
Oh, Junaidi. Nice to meet you guys. All right, so we're just playing a little game here where I'm gonna throw out some movie genres and see if they can name me some Bible stories that fit. All right, ready for the next one? Okay, let's see. A political thriller. A political thriller. Do you know of any stories in the Bible that are very political or that deals with politics?
I know his name.
With who?
I don't know.
All right, that deals with kings.
I think Elijah.
Elijah actually is a good one, where Elijah has to work and try to tell the king to change his mind, but the queen wants to kill this guy because he's trying to take her out, or trying to say, not to worship her gods instead, but to do the right thing. So it is a bit of a political thriller. Any others that you can think of? Okay, what about the 3 Hebrew boys? What about Daniel and the lion's den? All right, because think about it. Here you have a man who was a governor, a politician under the king, and then you have these other politicians trying to throw dirt on him, trying to take him out, trying in order to further their career. They're trying to take out Daniel and throw him and sentence him to death. But they can't find anything wrong with him except that he prays 3 times a day. So they make a law to ban that. That is a political thriller, if you want to look at it that way, right? Okay, what about a female lead? or a woman lead movie?
That's true.
Esther's a good one, you know. That's also a bit of a political thriller and a rags to riches story. Okay, anything else? Ruth, that would be another example of a female lead.
Mary?
Mary, the story of Mary is an excellent example of a good female lead with a good movie. Anyone else? How about Deborah, the judge? The woman who led an army to battle and won. You know, she led an army with Barak. Yeah, there was a guy named Barak in the Bible. Now, he was a little bit of a wuss, but we'll get into that later. Okay. Here's another interesting one. How about a romance movie?
That's Mary and Joseph.
Yeah, the story of Mary and Joseph. That's a good love story. Anyone else? Adam and Eve. Yeah, that's a good. Never thought of Adam and Eve, but that's a good one. Anyone else? You actually named one also a different one. Okay. Believe it or not, the story of Ruth is a love story. All right, it's a romance story as well. That's actually pretty interesting. You also have the story of Hosea. That one is a love story, but that kind of a twists and turns that you would never see coming. You could almost turn it into a rom-com. Samson and Delilah, yeah, that's a tragic love story. Okay, that's a good one. All right. What about an assassination movie or a hitman movie? Samson? I mean, he killed a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if we would consider him a hitman. Can you think of any?
I think probably Peter, because didn't he like slash like a man's hair?
I mean, yeah, he did, but that would be more of a bodyguard.
Yeah, but like at the same time, he did fight.
Yeah, he did. He was a pretty violent guy. Have you ever heard of the story of Ehud, the judge? Okay, this was a man. So Israel became slaves to Moab under a king of Eglon. And God raised up one man to be an assassin, a legit hitman. All right, he was a lefty, the only recorded lefty in the Bible. Yeah, it got into detail. He was a Benjaminite. Here's what happened. He had to go deliver a gift to King Eglon, who was this huge fat guy, just ginormous apparently. So he went in to deliver a gift. Now he was smart by strapping a dagger to his right thigh because he's left-handed. Now the dagger's length was about a cubit, which is about a cubit is from here to here, so that's about 12 inches. So think of a 12-inch Bowie knife or something like that. It was double-edged. So he went in. They checked him, but they didn't check between his right thigh. All right, because mostly everybody was right-handed, but because this guy was lefty, they didn't bother to check his right thigh. So he got into the king's chamber. He gave the king a gift and said, "But king, there's something important I gotta tell you, but I can only tell you it privately. It is of great importance." So the king said, "Okay, everybody up." And Ehud said, "Hang on, I gotta whisper it in your ear. It is this important." So he goes into the king's ear closely and asks, and the king said, "What is it?" He said, "Sir, there is someone in the palace who's trying to kill you." The king thought, "Who is it?" And right there, the guy whispered, "Me." And ding, stabbed the guy right in the belly. And the man was so fat, the fat ended up enveloping the whole dagger, and he died there. And at that point, Ehud went out the back and climbed down. Now, people didn't realize the guy was dead until about 6 hours later. And when somebody came in and said, "Okay, this guy's been talking a long time. King, are you there? Knock, knock. Are you in here? All right, I'm coming in. When they found out he was dead, they figured it must have been the assassin. A big war broke out, and the Jews won, of course. But yeah, man, that is quite the story. And that is one example. All right. Now, what about fighting movies? Like movies that are about fighting.
David and Goliath.
David and Goliath would be a good
So
one.
much genres.
I know, right? What can I say? I like movies. All right, but yeah, you got David and Goliath. That's a nice one. Pretty much any judge, really. You know, Othniel. There was one guy who killed like 300 people with a little spear. No, a farm tool. It was a farm. Not a pitchfork, but an ox goad. It's the thing that you poke at cows to get moving. That I believe was Shamgar. All right. Any other?
Samson?
Samson was a good one. Lot of action packed with him. In fact, honestly, if I could direct a movie, I would love to direct Samson's fight scene. There are two. Hey, come on in. Hey, Marlon. All right. Now, do you know what fight scene Samson had, or what are the most famous fights that Samson had?
I think the two things.
The pillars? That
Yeah.
that wasn't really a fight scene, but he did kill.
Oh, when you find a lion.
Yes, he fought a lion, wrestled with a lion, and killed it with his bare hand. You know, some say that's where the legend of Hercules began, with Samson. But yeah, there's the legend with the lion, but there's one.
Who's the legend?
Wait,
Well, the myth. Yeah.
wasn't like Hercules lion's big?
Well, Hercules had the same story where this guy
Yeah.
wrestled with a lion.
Yeah,
And
but if
killed
you watch the movie, it's like the lion is like
Yes.
as tall as the building.
Well, yeah, yeah, it was weird. But yeah, Samson did the same thing. Now, what's another fight scene that Samson did?
I guess
10,000 actually. No, not 10, 1,000. Okay, imagine that you got a whole army of 1,000 men, armed with swords and helmets and armor. You just got a donkey's jawbone, and he's fighting him. You know, at some point they had to do a dog pile on him, and he did like the Avengers, just from the middle of the pile, just and everybody just fell off from around him, and he's still knocking them back left and right with a donkey's jawbone.
That reminds me of Bane from DC.
Yeah,
Because he does do that.
yeah, he does do that. You know, Samson would be the other version of that, where he's just beating these guys left and right. That would have been something, in my opinion. All right.
Bane has green assassin.
You know. But yeah, that's one example. Another example, believe it or not, have you heard of David's Men of Valor? Oh man, this one is amazing. So David had a list. This is in the book of Samuel, I believe, 2 Samuel chapter 23, verses 8 to 39. So you have 30 examples of David telling these war stories of his men. How one guy with one spear took out 300 men with, in a big field. Now you could just imagine the spearmanship. It was probably looking like something out of a kung fu movie. Just
Assassin's Creed movie.
Assassin's Creed movie. Yeah. Something like that. You also had another guy, I believe, Abishai, who fought and killed 300 men with his sword and shield. Imagine that. That's more like a gladiator Spartacus movie. You're there with a shield, taking these guys out left and right. It's just
That's
one guy.
That's Spartans when
Yeah.
his arms are on
Yeah.
his dead.
Yeah,
So he has to go by himself.
yeah, that's almost a Spartan movie. Yeah. So the Bible is full of a lot of excitement. Now, what about, here's another movie genre, catastrophe or apocalyptic movie. That is the apocalyptic movie. I mean, come on. let's wait. You know the whole zombie apocalypse thing, end of the world apocalypse. That's a pretty popular genre.
World War Z.
World War Z. Exactly. The
That's
Bible.
scary. Basically.
Yeah.
World War Z. I would never want to be in there.
Yeah. The Bible pretty much says stuff like that in a very detailed and surprisingly descriptive way.
Apocalypse.
The apocalypse, yeah.
In the Bible, it says something about the 7 bells,
7 seals.
7 seals.
Yep, 7 seals and 7 trumpets. Yeah. Yeah, it gets in a big detail. In fact, the word revelation in Latin is apocalypsis, which is where we get the word apocalyptic from. So when we think apocalyptic genre, that is a revelation. You know, that's where we get it from. Now, catastrophe, the same thing with the flood. Think about it. It's the end of the world. Someone's preaching. A flood's coming, and boom, you get this worldwide flood. Very scary. Yeah.
I remember.
The plagues of Egypt. That's another example of a disaster. Think about it. Water turning to blood in a minute. Then a plague of frogs and flies coming in. And everybody gets infected with boils and sores. Oh yeah, that's one of the.
That was actually bad. I actually watched a movie.
Mhm.
I forgot. I think it was called Floods.
Yeah.
There was this one big flood. It was so big.
Yeah.
really big. So it's like it was inside like this town. Well, not town, but it was inside New York City. A big so say this table is the city. The flood is this big.
Mhm.
So by the time it even hits the floor, everybody's gone.
Yeah.
People tries to go over it so then they don't get hit, but some people it just kept up in the moon.
Right. No.
It was very catastrophe. It was like a
Yeah.
apocalyptic.
Yeah. It sounds apocalyptic. So you're right. Anything else? But about the catastrophic event? Because there's a lot of them. All right. Okay. Moving on. What about horror? Believe it or not, there are some horrific things that happen in the Bible. I got horror / exorcism. So do you know of anything like that happened in the Bible?
I know exorcism is like mostly like
Mhm.
it's like it's like horror and then it shows you like good. So yeah.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So can you think of anything? Mhm. Yeah, the Book of Enoch. That's a little bit off script. How about this? Since we were discussing the plague of Egypt, what about the angel of death?
What is that?
You never heard of the angel of death?
Really?
That was the last plague. Think of this. All right. So Moses is saying, please, Pharaoh, let us go. Otherwise, the last plague will be horrible. It will, no, angel of death. The angel of death is coming and they will kill every firstborn male in the land. He did not listen. So Moses said, listen to the people, this is what you must do. You must kill a lamb, take its blood and put it on the post of the door. That way the angel will pass over you. That's where the Hebrew Passover comes from, which actually will be celebrated, I believe, next week, if I'm not mistaken. Hebrew Passover. We have it the same time as Easter. But yeah, they celebrate the Passover. They celebrate that the angel of death passed over their house. But think about it. You're going through the day thinking, oh man, God's sending an angel to kill people, man. We can't fight back. We can't take this guy out. The only thing is, we gotta quickly find a ram, make sure everything is set. We kill it, put the blood, and then the night comes. And imagine you're there in the house, just waiting, listening, and you hear the angel coming. You hear the angel coming, and it just goes, oh, and it's at the door. You see the light. It is at the door, and you're wondering, oh man, I hope the blood works. I hope the blood works. The angel sees the blood, and it moves on to the next. It sees the blood and moves on to the next. But to those that it don't see the blood, it goes in, kills. Yeah, it's basically like a grim reaper. Goes in and kills the firstborn child. And the next thing you see is the morning. When the sun rises, you have all these families in all Egypt crying and wailing, my son, all dead.
So you're basically saying, when you guys are gonna come out the door,
Yeah,
see them,
see the blood?
and go for it.
Yep,
By the time you do the next one, it's like, they can see it, you know,
yep. Hey, that's God. You know, that's just one example. What about the example with Jesus and Herod? Y'all know that story? Okay, so when Herod found out about that Jesus was born and he was going to be king of the Jews, he made a decree. He sent out his entire army to Bethlehem and throughout all of Judea to kill every male child from the ages of 2 and under. That is a whole nother level of horror movie, man. Yeah, and yeah, the Egyptians did the same thing with Moses. You know, that's why Moses was put in the river, because they made a decree: we're going to kill every male child from a certain age.
But he went straight to the Egyptians, but they didn't think of it, they just took it
Yeah, that was essentially it. So yeah, there was some pretty scary movie material there in the
in. I
Bible
think I
too.
have one more, but I
Yeah.
don't really think it's gonna find it.
Okay.
So it's like, some people on TikTok be like, the following age is gonna be coming one day, I'm looking at it.
That actually is very interesting. Back to apocalyptic as well.
That's like, they said three.
You know, where you can look at it like this. Okay. Think of it like this. It's kind of more of a psychological thriller than horror. But picture this: you're going through your regular life. Okay, it would be the story of Job. You're going through your everyday life, no problem, and you have the devil coming in and destroying everything you hold dear. Meanwhile, it seems like God isn't doing anything. That sounds very horrible, sounds scary. The devil comes in again, takes away your health. Now you're sick and full of sores and everything. And God, again, is silent. And you're there mourning. Then the devil takes away your children, takes away your money, takes away everything, and you're left homeless, bitter. And God is still silent. Until finally you say, God, please answer me. And God actually shows up. A tornado comes down, and you see and you hear the voice of God actually talking. Okay, and he says that, okay, who is the one who's been complaining? Stand up like a man, because I'm here and I want to hear what you got to say. That is scary. You think the devil is scary? Imagine God comes to you and says, okay, who's the guy complaining? And where is he? Show yourself, because I want to talk to you man to man. Oh, well, God asked him several questions and said, were you there when I did this? Were you there when I did that? All right. Now, after that, God said, talked to the friends of Job and said, listen, you guys were spoken lies and you didn't speak truthfully like my servant Job did. Now, after this whole encounter, Job had this revelation. He said, God, before I had only heard of it, but now I see face to face and I understand and I feel I have a better understanding of it. So I take back my complaint. And from there, God ended up blessing Job and restoring twice what he had. The health he had before, he was even more healthy, even more, he looks more younger. The amount of money he had doubled. The houses doubled, his wealth doubled. And he got 7 more children. The men all turned out to be leaders, the best, strongest guys. And his daughters were the most beautiful women in the land. Whatever blessing God took away, he restored in full and double. So I guess this would go under the feel-good movie title. Do you know of any other feel-good stories? When Jesus was born, that's a classic. Any other?
When the Samson was born, they was happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, not really, but like.
Oh no, they were happy. Yeah. What else? Okay. The story of Eden. Anyone else? How about the miracle? You know, Jesus healing the blind.
So yeah, that was like a film.
That is the epitome of a feel good. What about the leper? Think of this. There was a man who was a leper, who had the disease of leprosy. When you have leprosy, you are shunned. You have to live out in the wild. You can't see your family, you can't see your friends, you can't see anybody. Every time you walk, you gotta shout out, unclean, unclean. Get away from me. Monster, monster. Imagine little kids look at you and say, ah, and run away. All the time. This man had went through this for years. For years, he didn't talk to anyone. For years, didn't see anyone. He was just alone for years. And then he hears about Jesus. And he's walking toward Jesus. And the disciples, they're like, oh no, a monster. Quick, Jesus, get back. But instead, Jesus goes to this man. And he says, what can I do for you? And the man says, Lord, if you're willing, you can heal me. You can make me whole again. So Jesus says, I'm willing. And he hugs the man. He touches the man. This is the first time he's been touched in years. And all of a sudden, he's healed. All of a sudden, he's healed. He's fine. And he said, and he's happy. And imagine the joy. He's healed now. I can move my hands. I can move my feet. I'm not sick anymore. I'm so happy. And then Jesus tells them to do the hardest thing ever. You know what it was? Go to the temple, give a sacrifice, give your offering, and do not tell anyone what just happened. Don't say a word.
He said something.
How can he not say anything? I mean, come on. If you were sick and all of a sudden you're healed, don't you have something to say? So here's what happened. According to the Bible, he went and he told everybody. You can't really blame him, in all honesty. But yeah, that is an epitome of a feel-good movie. Now, that being said, there's a lot of things so our time's running out. So there's a lot of reasons to look into the Bible. Now, but the primary reason is this. In the book of Philippians, it says the Bible is good for a lot of things. For learning, for reading, for education, for correction, and for building up of good work. It also says whatever is good, whatever is honorable, whatever is pure, whatever is just, meditate on these things. Okay? These are the things you need to meditate on. But the question is why? Okay? Why do you think we should meditate on good things? Have you ever heard of this saying? As a person thinks in his mind, that is who he is. Because that is his mindset. So let me ask you, if you watch violence 24 hours a day, would that affect the kind of person you are? Okay, what if you watch a bunch of horror movies all the time? Do you think that would affect the kind of person you are?
Yes.
Yeah, it would.
I won't even be able to sleep.
Yeah, fair. Now, on the contrast, what if you meditated on these feel-good stories, like Jesus helping out people, or Elijah, or the other prophets?
That'll be like good for a person, because that'll make them like feel good and better, and also help them like be positive inside their own type of thing.
Right. The way to be positive is to watch and expose yourself to more positive things. Make sense? And this is why the Bible is good. Now, sometimes I'm not gonna lie, the Bible can be boring. But, especially compared to video games or these books. However, if you were to, put a pause in the video game for a while, kind of cleanse your mind, and then go into the Bible, it takes on life. And it becomes interesting. It becomes exciting at times. Just like the stories we discussed. Now, does anybody have any other comments want to give out?
I remember getting taught about Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this one person, I forgot his name, but he was sitting on a tree meditating for years,
Yeah.
and he said that he finally saw the light. I think like God was actually like helping at the same time.
Could be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because like meditating, like and listening to like the background of Mother Nature, it can like show great effects inside your life. He even showed people how to do the same thing that he did, so then they can be enlightened the same way that he did, and they can learn like more stuff instead of just learning like some ways that you can do stuff.
That's a fair
It's
point.
like he did it. It's like he's like saying, work, like don't work harder, just work smarter. Like just become like one with God.
Right. No, that's a fair point. And even the Bible says, if you seek God with all your heart, you will find him. But the thing is, you gotta seek. You gotta look for it. Right? So that's a fair point.
I think he was looking for it too.
Yeah, he probably was.
Because at the end of the day, he did get wisdom. And he did see some stuff.
Yeah.
People didn't really worship him, but they did follow his footsteps. So once they figured that out, they started like, getting wisdom and obeying.
Yeah. That's a fair point. Right. Anyone else? All right. So it's about that time to wrap up. So, but I do want to say this. I highly recommend you read the Bible. I recommend start with the book of Judges. Judges is one of the more exciting books. If you find it boring, that or Esther, that one's also exciting as well. And then go there. Okay, but the thing about the Bible, there's always something for everyone. All right, something of interest.
Is the Bible in order?
Well,
yes.
Here's the thing: the 5 books of Moses are in order. Now, that being said, after that, it kind of shifts. You have Joshua and Judges and Samuel, which is fine, but then things get a little shifty because the book of Psalms was during David's time, yet Psalms is after Nehemiah and Ezra, which happened after David's time. So it's not completely in chronological order, with the exception of Revelation, of course. And the Gospel, the New Testament is in more or less chronological order. That being said, it is still very useful and beneficial, right?
I'm just gonna realize that my favorite is Luke.
Luke is a good book. I'm not gonna lie. Do you guys have a favorite book? Why don't we end it with that? What's your guys' favorite book or favorite story?
Does that to be in the Bible?
Yeah.
Genesis.
Genesis is a good one. Revelation is nice. What about yours? Do you have a favorite book?
Yeah, I do.
Judges?
Genesis.
Oh, Genesis. Genesis is a good one. Now you said it was Luke, right, Molly? Right. How are you? Okay. Solange, what about you? Psalms and Proverbs. I'm with you on Proverbs. I like Proverbs. If you're into philosophy, I'm telling you, Proverbs is a good one. Greek, that's my favorite. But yeah, that in the book of Judges. Okay. So, as for you guys at home, what's your favorite book? Please comment it down below in the comments. So it's about that time. So does anybody want to pray to close out? All right, thanks, Gordon. Go for it. Amen. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place.
Hit
Bye for
the
now.
like button, subscribe
Oh.
all the time.
Thanks, Mike. Hit the like button, click subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the little bell as well so you get notified of every time we are on. All right. That being said, take care. Have a good week. Bye.